Welcome, everyone. This is the Monday edition, March the 7th, 2022 of the NBA Triple Double Show, powered by the Predictive Playbook and presented to you by SportsMemo TV. I'm your host, John Ryan, as always, and my partner, as always, and good friend and sports betting professional is Ronald Cabang. And he and I are going to break down three games just like we always do. That's the triple part, and believe it or not, the double is Ronald and me. We're pretty creative, aren't we? So, Ronald, welcome to the show. Hope you had a good weekend, and let's get right to it. We're going to look at the Warriors, who have, not exactly played well. But that's because personnel issues and guys, not being able to play, let alone just getting some rest. The Warriors are second in the Western Conference at a 43-21 record. The Nuggets, are not that far behind anymore. They are sixth in the Western Conference at 38-26. They're 30-33 against the number for the year. And home, they are a pretty decent 19-11, one of the better home team records in the NBA. But Golden State, like they are every year when they're at full strength, and they are 17-14 straight up on the road. So what do you think of this game, and where's the betting opportunity leading you?
Yeah, this one's a little bit tough just because, looking at the injury report here, we got Clay, Curry, and Andrew Wiggins all resting today, and they already had a slew of guys that have been injured: Iggy, Draymond, Gary Payton, and Wiseman, they haven't really been playing up to the normal Warriors level. They failed to cover in 11 of their last 12, I believe. Um, and overall, year over year, the Warriors team is a team that usually gets the wins, but they fail to cover. But on the Nuggets side here, they're playing the third game in 4 nights, second game of back to back. They just had an overtime win yesterday over the Pelicans. Jokic had 40. He played 42 minutes and had a 40-point triple double.
It's awesome.
Knowing that the Warriors are going to be sitting a bunch of players, especially the key guys. I mean, what would be stopping the Nuggets from sitting Jokic after playing that many minutes? For me, there's too many question marks in this one at this point to play anything. I would probably want to see if Jokic does actually play. Maybe a slight slight lean to the over with a lot of the defense on the Warriors side sitting. It could be a fast paced game. Um, and to me, right now is just a little bit too tough to play anything on the side.
Yeah, no, it's interesting with the Warriors, the situation. They've, as you mentioned, 11 of the last 12, they have failed to cover the spread. They have won only two games in the last 10. And it's like a team that I don't recognize anymore because we recognized them in previous shows for their defense. And of course, the offense was going to be there. But now, three of the last four games, they've allowed over 50% shooting. And it's kind of mind blowing. They've allowed 129, 122, and 124 in their
Mm-hmm.
last three games. So I'm just wondering if this is an opportunity to maybe to play the over.
Yeah, I
What do you
mean
think?
that would be the only way I would look at this point, especially with Curry. I mean, I know you're missing a lot of offense there, but what they do is they play they play a lot better defense as a team with those guys on the court. And when the bench guys come in, like guys like Kuminga, Jordan Poole, they're really all. I mean, especially Poole. He's pretty offensive minded, not really playing defense against the guards. No one. If Jokic plays, I don't see anyone that can really stop him at this point on the Warriors squad. Kuminga, he's someone that he could take it to the rim on the offensive side of the ball and play with a fast pace as a big. So I mean, to me, the over would be the only way I could look at this point. I would stay far away from the side as possible in this game.
Yeah, and here's an angle that you'll absolutely love, and this is not an angle that you want to rely on to bet on, and you'll see why in just about a matter of seconds. But in the last matchup, this Denver Nuggets team beat them at Golden State 117-116 on February the 16th, and Golden State was installed as a 5-point home favorite. Well, guess what? Head coach Steve Kerr is 17-1 against the number, revenging two consecutive straight up losses to the current opponent and was a favorite in both of them. Now, I don't like that trend because it's 17-1. It things don't go to 34-2, folks, and they don't even go sometimes to 22-2. We saw last year the Chicago White Sox dominated left-handed pitching for the better part of 25 games, and then they were basically 500 against lefties the rest of the season. So I want to caution when you find trends that are this lopsided from 500. You don't find trends that are reliable that are in the 90% range over 18 games, for example, which is what Steve Kerr is here. And that doesn't mean that you play Denver either. It just means that is like, oh, wow, that is definitely a red flag. So I just wanted to throw that out. I know you look at those things the same way. It all has to do with that P value, or as Tony Finn likes me to call it, the JR value, because the P value doesn't sound appealing. It just doesn't. All right, so enough of the mathematics class here. Let's move on to the next pick, and that next pick is going to be the Lakers. The Lakers. I mean, can you imagine the Lakers and the Nets with losing records? And somebody would have said that to you anywhere before the season started, you would have just walked away, probably scared that they were psychotic or something. And here we are. The Lakers are not in the playoffs as of right now, I believe. They're close. They're ninth in the Western. The Spurs are 12th in the Western. ATS, the Spurs have done well, 32-21 on the season, despite that bad straight-up record. And the Lakers are 27-35 against the number, but 7 games under 500. This line opened at San Antonio, favored by 2 points at home. And I think there's a bit of a red flag developing here because the money seems to be pouring in on the Lakers, and I think it's for the wrong reasons because the public betting community will think, well, this is where LeBron will get his act together and like every year before, and they'll just surge right up the standings and get the 4 or 5 seed. I kind of disagree right now because the proof of the pudding is that they are playing awful. They're getting booed by their home fans, and it's just a complete toxic situation. So what do you think of this game? Is the Spurs worth a look?
Yeah, I think they are. But I did take a look at the injury report this morning, and Vassell and DeJounte Murray are both game time decision. So that's something to make sure we take a look at before placing any bet on this game, because DeJounte Murray is the end all be all for the Spurs at this point. He's pretty much their go-to guy. He does everything for them. But they've lost and failed to cover in 4 straight. They lost 4 straight and failed to cover in 3 straight. The Lakers, they obviously haven't been playing well, but they did beat the Warriors outright. For them, this could be either a letdown spot or this could be a momentum shifter for them. But it's really tough to this point. For me, I would lean towards the Spurs, especially if DeJounte Murray plays today. I would mainly focus towards the first quarter because Lakers have been kind of playing really well in the second half of games. And when I was taking a look at this, the Lakers' first quarter margin is minus 3.75 as road dogs against teams with a losing record, and the Spurs are plus 4.5 in the first quarter as home favorites against teams with a losing record. So there you can see a little bit of value, even with the Spurs being slight favorites here. I think it's at minus 2 now. So there's a little bit of value there that we could see, but I definitely wouldn't be playing anything until I know the status of DeJounte Murray.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, and I will continue to say on this show whenever we break down a Lakers game that I will not bet the Lakers, and that's not in honor of Ski Profit of Wager Talk fame, because I don't think he's too much of a happy camper, being that he's a LA resident, and we'll have to watch that show later today at 4 o'clock. Over at wagertalk.com. So I avoid this game. If I had any lean as we're speaking right now, it would certainly be to the Spurs and maybe even in-game with the Lakers. You could play both sides of this game if you watch the game and get the flows. Like you said, the second half team has been the Lakers in desperation to try to come back from first half deficits. It's what it is. And you maybe, if you like the Lakers and you're listening to this, you might be able to get a better value waiting for the in-game and getting them as possibly a 5 or 6 point, 7 point underdog. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Let's move on to
just to add to this game too.
Sure.
This is an important game for playing considerations because they're both in that little bubble of I think 9 to 12, 9 to 13.
Yep.
Those guys are like within range of flipping spots. Lakers could really be out of the playoffs. So this is something that they need to really these are like must win games moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, and I've been saying about the Lakers that boy, this might be the turning point, and you don't bet those games because you think it's a turning point, but you're just kind of waiting for it. But it doesn't look that locker room's got to be just horrible. The Russell Westbrook situation isn't very positive either. So anyway, I guess that's our toxic matchup of the day. Let's move on to our third and final game now. March the 7th here, we have the Utah Jazz, fourth in the Western Conference, going against the fifth best team right now in the Western Conference, and that would be the Dallas Mavericks. This game is taking place at American Airlines Center, and guess what? It's in Dallas. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dallas is 39-25. They're 35-28 against the number, going up against a Jazz team that is 40-23, closing in on those Warriors for that number 2 spot even. Over under is 30-32 for them. They're 18-13 away, which is one of the best road records. However, Dallas is 22-11, has been playing pretty darn well in recent games. This line is Dallas minus 1.5. My early look on this game, Ronald, is I think Dallas is a little bit overvalued now after those winning ways, and I think Utah is the better team. What do you think?
Yeah, this one is another tough game here. The Jazz, they're completely healthy. I know Conley didn't sit yesterday, but that was for just for rest purposes, probably to get ready for this game. But they actually played a tougher game towards the end of yesterday's game against the Thunder. So the normal starters actually did play 33 plus minutes. That they could have probably played only like 28. But the Thunder made a little run in the fourth quarter there to kind of push things. So they definitely, and this is also the third game in 4 nights. So last game of a 5-game road trip. So there could be some fatigue on that side at this point. I think they've also failed to cover in 5 of the last 6, if I'm not mistaken either. And the Mavs, they've won and covered in 6 of the last of their 7. Luka, Kleber and Brunson are all game time decision, but I believe Luka will be playing today. Normally, Brunson being a game time decision or out would be tough for this team, but they picked up Spencer Dinwiddie, another some guard depth there, and this is a revenge spot here. They're 12-2 against the spread following a previous matchup loss, so they take these situations pretty strongly here. They're also 13-5-1 against the spread against conference teams with a winning record. These are the type of games the Mavs play up for. So to me, I actually like the Mavs in this one. The fatigue side on the Jazz side, the fatigue on the Jazz side, and revenge here on the Mavs. There is that the momentum on their side as well. I kind of like the Mavs in this one.
Yeah, that's interesting because the Mavs have been very good, as you pointed out, with revenge, and there's a double revenge system that is at 72% winners that supports them as well. And Dallas this year is 10-1 against the numbers, a home favorite of 6 or fewer points. I think you're onto something here with the Dallas Mavericks, and maybe they're not at that point of regression. I think they're kind of there, but if they're not, I mean, this 1.5 is like a really cheap price, and if they win the game, I would expect them to probably win by 7-10 or even more. They are playing that well. Let's move on to the final segment, and that's our best bets for the show. Our producer gave us 3 difficult games to break down, but we are obligated. No, not obligated. We are asked, and very nicely too, by our producer Chris, who we just absolutely love.
Yeah.
To come up with a best bet or best bet pair of games. So what do you think, Ron? I'm going to turn this over to you because I just right now I can't decide.
Yeah. Well, we could look a number of ways here. With everyone sitting on the Warriors side, all the defense missing there, we could look at an overgame with the Nuggets pushing the pace there. We could also look at the Spurs first quarter, especially if DeJounte Murray is good to go. That's one way I would look at that game. I do like the Mavs. I think they have the revenge situation on their side here, and also fatigue affecting the Jazz. Those would be the three ways I would look at this point.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I like the over in
Like,
the Golden
okay.
State Denver game.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely, I think that is a good play because, like you said it perfectly. That the Spurs, they want to win this game. They're going to have to force the tempo quite a bit, and that's what they're good at doing. It's we're one of the fastest paced teams in the NBA, if not the fastest. I didn't look at the stats this morning, but they have been up and down the court as much as possible to. And with a depleted bench, this is probably a situation where they could run Golden State out of the game by the first half, and then it becomes junk time in the fourth quarter, and those quarters usually end up being like 65 pointers or more. So I like the over in this situation quite a bit here. It'll be I'll have to check the models, but I can comment later. It's probably going to be like a 3%er. I doubt whether it's going to make my card to my all access clients. So there we have it, Ronald, for March the 7th. Thank you for your time, as always. Thanks to everyone who's watching these shows. We appreciate the growth that you've done, and we appreciate everybody that has taken the time to subscribe and ring the bell. It means a lot to us, and it keeps us motivated, especially this time of year with March and all the conference tournaments coming up in the NCAA basketball. And I'll be doing a show right after this one with the NCAA basketball and a couple semifinal matches in some of the lesser conferences, but very exciting ones like in the Horizon Conference. They always seem to be so competitive and fun to watch. They may not be the Dukes of the world, but they are fun to watch. So, on behalf of SportsMemo.com, we'll see you again tomorrow with another edition of the NBA Triple Double Show. And until then, remember, always bet with your head, never over it, and may all the wins be yours.